We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it.
This Turning Point conference, the were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs, and the cigar.
I think it's important that every single person that attended that Turning Point, every Republican speak up against these against the flags that were waved.
You let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say.
Joe Rogan just launched a vicious attack on the View hosts, and no, it's not your grandmother's tea party. The reason for this is that Charlie Kirk just hit them with a $100 million lawsuit and things went crazy. Don't think you've witnessed a drama. This is next-level chaos served with a side of Rogan's trademark brutal honesty. Stay tuned, because once Joe starts, there's no turning back.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept the View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there, of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country, that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to...
When your name is mentioned on daytime TV like a used tissue, and you have enough money to call their bluff with that kind of money, Charlie Kirk decides to throw down the gauntlet and sue the View hosts for $100 million. Yes, you read correctly. $100 million. You don't just sit there and drink your chamomile tea, you go nuclear.
I mean, the View has to be, if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person, and what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked, and you went on stage with it and it's nothing.
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah,
there's nothing there. Sometimes comics
don't mess with me, because the lawsuit isn't just a tantrum. It's a message packaged in a multi-million-dollar price tag. Apparently, The View believed that Charlie Kirk was open season, making accusations about him as if they were Oprah's giveaway. Automobiles. Everyone is accused, even you, but when Kirk yells foul, everything becomes completely lawful.
We begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo who showed up outside.
Currently, The View hosts are still acting like they're clutching their pearls and spinning their typical daytime drama as though this is all a small misunderstanding over a misinterpreted tweet. But it's actually a $100 million misunderstanding. That kind of lawsuit makes your typical reality show feud seem like playground squabbles over crayons.
See what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it, because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said
on television.
Just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything.
Yeah.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
And then comes Joe Rogan, who, as the person who made podcasting a contact sport, abruptly offers his opinions or perhaps a ton of sarcasm about the whole thing. It's cruel to watch Joe Rogan make fun of The View hosts. It's like watching a big animal give a TED lecture about how to eat honey better than a bee. Imagine the person who often disputes alien theories and MMA fighters simply mocking the daytime TV queens for their performance outrage, and let's pretend we're serious. It's unexpected and oddly enjoyable. It's similar to witnessing a master cook criticize a deliciously brutal microwave meal. The View hosts have been running around like it's a daytime soap opera, throwing shade but never really entering the ring. In contrast, Joe Rogan just throws haymakers of blunt truth, then laughs as they flail trying to keep up. Let's be honest, this is why Rogan's mockery is hitting so hard, because he's not playing their game. Joe Rogan notices and isn't holding back when the stakes get serious. He highlights how the hosts have a habit of calling out everyone else's bad behavior while avoiding accountability like it's an Olympic sport. The entire concept of The View is based on loud opinions, but when someone suddenly steps back with legal muscle, the volume drops. There's a sweet irony in talking big, but folding.
Welcome back. In Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So.
This Charlie, in the meantime, Kirk's lawsuit is more than just a trophy. It's a statement about media accountability in a time when everyone believes they have the right to disparage anyone they don't like on national television. This is where things get interesting because people may believe they are untouchable daytime divas, but Kirk's lawsuit is the legal equivalent of a mic drop, a loud, costly one, and it's also an amazing spectacle of media meets money meets madness. Assuming that legal consequences are only background noise, one side features a panel of panelists who have made their livings on outrage and opinion, while the other side features a wealthy conservative activist who says, "Not on my watch, and here's a 100 million reasons why." Joe Rogan's jests are the ideal magnifying glass, revealing how absurd everything appears. When you zoom out, the hosts pretend to be morally superior, but when someone retaliates, they become squirmy. Perhaps the moral high ground isn't so high when it's cluttered with lawsuits, as demonstrated by Roger's humor, which cuts through the clutter. This drama is a microcosm of the modern media environment, where lawsuits are used as a weapon, and it goes beyond simply a conflict between individuals. Outrage is in, and everyone is anticipating the next big controversy.
Shift between right and left authoritarianism, and now people don't recognize that if you just stopped looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right, and now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing, and I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side, and if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do, and no one's critically thinking about this.
Joe Rogan is the gateway drug for young men that thought they were Democrats to become MAGA. Joe Rogan is the bridge, and on that bridge they'll see RFK, they'll see Elon.
As though the lawsuit wasn't enough to shake up the daytime chatterboxes, the View hosts are caught in this chaotic crossfire where their standard strategy, first deal with consequences never, is now being rewritten by legal filings and judicial dates. Rogan's takedown is like salt in a wound they didn't know they had. His scathing wit and unrepentant tone make it clear that The View's brand of serious discussion frequently verges on farce, especially when someone is willing to fight back hard. The hosts have long profited from a combination of theatrical outrage and selective outrage, carefully choosing targets while keeping their own hands clean. However, Kirk's lawsuit and Rogan's response highlight that selective justice, the kind that works well for ratings until it threatens your wallet. Meanwhile, viewers are caught in the middle of what feels like a daytime TV meltdown with $1 million price tag and a podcast comedian as the unexpected referee. It's messy, ridiculous, and it's the kind of media circus that's hard to turn away from The View. You may shout all you want on live TV, but when the lawsuit lands in your inbox and Joe Rogan's roasting goes viral, it's a different story. That's why remaining silent in the face of Rogan's derision is telling. There are no big retorts or cuts to commercial moments, just a quiet storm building behind the scenes.
I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. And they always bring on a token conservative woman, they yell over her and silence her, and they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's just it's a bizarre.
The entire spectacle is a glittering magnifying glass held up to the untamed jungle of media polarization, where every insult is a grenade and every lawsuit is a missile. This case is not just a midday headline to scroll past with your third cup of coffee. The conflict between Charlie Kirk and The View isn't taking place in a vacuum. Rather, it's right in the center of a culture that is so split that it could pass for a reality program named America. Lawsuits in today's world have evolved into political weapons more akin to a feud than a tweet storm. Forget about resolving small-scale neighborhood parking disputes. Instead, you file a $100 million lawsuit when you are called out on daytime TV. This is a flex move that serves as a reminder that money speaks louder than ratings. And if you are unable to win the argument on camera, you simply drag it into court and let the lawyers battle it out. This lawsuit is a prime example of how the legal system has evolved into a platform for media battles, transforming public feuds into multi-million-dollar gladiator contests where only the wealthiest gladiators survive. Media polarization feeds this circle on one side with mainstream outlets like The View hosts, who have mastered the art of performative outrage. Think of it as outrage theater, where the main plot revolves around how awful the opposing side is.
I get it. I also hate Joy Behar. So I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird. So I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double
X.
Okay. Double X.
They brought in the lowest of the double X's for that one.
On the other hand, conservative leaders like Charlie Kirk use their fury to rally their supporters through gotcha moments and, it seems, litigation. This conflict has the subtlety of a wrecking ball in a glass factory and is about a systematic struggle for control over public perception rather than just two groups arguing. This drama combines elements of reality TV, legal thrillers, and circus sideshows in an odd way where news is presented as theater and theater is presented as news. One minute you're watching people discuss weighty subjects, and then you hear about a lawsuit that sounds more like a Hollywood blockbuster script. The lines are so blurry that it's impossible to determine if you're meant to be amused, offended, or just munching popcorn. The worst part is that the typical spectator is left staring at this jumbled mess, trying to distinguish between what's real and what's just showbiz. The lawsuit, the jeering, the legal posture. All of it is a component of a spectacle meant to keep viewers' eyes fixed on screens. Joe Rogan's brutal takedown and the courtroom drama on The View are not isolated incidents. Rather, they are parts of an ongoing soap opera that revolves around politics, the media, and money.
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men actually voting more for him, and you have and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly.
What comes next in this crazy story? If it goes to court, expect it to be less about legal nuance and more about grandstanding. Both sides will likely treat the courtroom like a new stage complete with sound bites and media leaks. Alternatively, perhaps The View hosts decide to settle quietly because nothing screams damage control like writing a fat check to make this all go away. Or perhaps this turns into a protracted legal battle with every embarrassing email, tweet, and behind-the-scenes rant brought into the public eye. Imagine the discovery phase, a treasure trove of juicy receipts spilling out faster than you can say ratings boost. Don't hold your breath, since drama is The View's specialty, and this lawsuit is only the most recent development in their story. They may attempt to refine their act, make their talking points more precise, and even tone down the drama. In addition, to Joe Rogan, the podcast king, who has repeatedly demonstrated his ability to turn any topic into a viral bonfire, social media will fan the flames like a pyromaniac with a flamethrower. Every meme, sarcastic tweet, and gotcha clip will be recycled endlessly, making it impossible for anyone to forget that daytime TV just went nuclear. His satire isn't an isolated incident. Rather, it serves as a warning to all onlookers that this dispute is serious business and not simply idle banter.
You watched the episode when Tulsi Gabbard got on to defend herself, and Joy Behar starts panicking and going over her notes while Tulsi is refuting everything that she said?
Yeah, I mean, Joy Behar, like, again, these people have dementia. These are people who, like, should not be allowed out of the house. They have a national platform. I mean, it is crazy. They have no idea. These people have never read, like, a book.
And there's versions.
In a media environment where social media fury and influencer power prevail, this litigation is a perfect storm of unpredictability. The old rules don't apply. A tweet can start a quarrel, a video may go viral overnight, and a podcast segment can make a lawsuit into a national joke. Although no one can predict where this will lead, I can assure you that it won't be dull. Millions of people are watching this real-life soap opera, which has all the makings for a protracted, nasty, and extremely entertaining showdown. Every new development will be discussed, memed, and debated on many platforms. The narrative of The View's case isn't just about money and the media. It's also about how public disagreements are turned into weapons, how people argue, and how the me distinction between entertainment and reporting keeps blurring. With Joe Rogan's microphone still hot and Charlie Kirk's legal team prepared to rumble, the following act promises even more upheaval. One thing is certain, though, in the war of hashtag lawsuits and vicious roasts, nobody is leaving quietly. Courtroom fireworks and comedy. The only question is who will be roasted next, and what's really amazing about this whole story is that it serves as a reminder of how quickly things can change from being in charge one day to being dragged on a podcast that typically discusses UFOs and elk hunting the next. What does all of this mean for the future of daytime TV and the cultural wars, given that karma has a terrible sense of humor? First of all, it might serve as a wake-up call for people who believe that making baseless charges and hurling insults will have no repercussions. Joe Rogan's ridicule serves as a model for how media personalities outside of the mainstream may use humor and scathing commentary to keep the loudest voices accountable, while Charlie Kirk's lawsuit is a financial slap that asserts ideas may be free, but allegations are not. In the end, this narrative is a perfect storm of pop culture theatrics, legal turmoil, and media spectacle. No sugarcoating, no safe zones, just pure, unfiltered roast. The next time The View hosts decide to toss around accusations like confetti, keep in mind Charlie Kirk's $100 million lawsuit and Joe Rogan's brutal roast, because in today's media battlefield, the loudest voice isn't always the most powerful. Sometimes it's the one with the sharpest wit and the deepest pockets. The conservative activist with enough money to shake up daytime TV, a panel of hosts who built their empire on outrage, and a podcast titan who's not afraid to call them out, with savage humor. We're all here, popcorn in hand, watching the chaos unfold.